matter how cool and sophisticated your tastes have become, the opening riff of your favorite high school songs still has the power to transport you back in time. Nostalgia is one of the most powerful tools in songwriting. By 1982, David Bowie was more than a decade into cementing himself as the king of reinvention. He'd walked that rare tightrope of getting commercial success without sacrificing artistic integrity. But as the MTV age dawned, it was time to rebrand himself again. This time, he turned away from the avant-garde and embraced his own nostalgia. Let's dance! Bowie was not a fan of vacations and taking time off. Holidays to him are boring. So as the tireless workaholic went away to the South Pacific in 1982, to cure the boredom, he brought along his favorite blues and R&B records from when he was a kid: Little Richard, James Brown, Buddy Guy, Albert King. Little did he know, but that vacation would shape his whole future sound and direction. After birthing Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White Duke, Pierrot the Sad Clown, and many other experiments that brought him success in the 70s, the page had turned to the 80s. David was only 33 years old, but already had 14 albums in his belt. That vacation brought him the realization that there was a certain kind of coldness to his avant-garde direction up to that point. The sounds of his youth that he started listening to again ignited a new train of thought. For his next record, instead of inventing something brand new, maybe he could try capture that warmth he felt from the old.
But it's fundamentally trying to regain the same kind of immediacy and excitement that one feels with one's old record collection.
The first step towards recapturing that warmth was hiring Nile Rodgers as producer. Nile had been successful on the disco forefront in the 70s with his group Chic. David and Nile met by chance one night at a New York City nightclub.
And we had exactly the same taste in early rhythm and blues, and guitarists and big bands and whatever from that period. And it just struck me at that point, I said, God, it'd be great to maybe work with him.
The process began at David's house in Switzerland, where they spent days getting to know each other. Bowie sort of programmed his vision into Nile subconsciously as they sat around listening to 50s R&B classics and talking about music. One morning, David walked into Nile's room with a 12-string guitar. Or what had once been a 12-string, it had just 6 strings on it.
He says, "Nah, darling, I think this song is a hit." And he starts playing something like this.
Nile was confused. It sounded like a 60s folk outtake from the Byrds or something. David already had a title which totally caught Nile by surprise. It was to be called Let's Dance. Coming from dance music, this bass line to work with would be no easy task.
If I do a song called Let's Dance and it sounds like a folk song, I'd have to turn in my Black Music Union card.
But Nile asked if he could sit on the song for a while and play around with it, understanding the freedom David was giving him as producer.
And then I just moved it up to B flat and went, uh-oh, I'm onto something here. But it sounded a little dark, so then I inverted it up to, and I started going.
But in 1982, Nile was still suffering from the after effects of the Disco Sucks movement, with his old band Chic bearing the brunt of the criticism. To steer the song well away from that critique, he simplified the riff.
I just played all upstrokes. And then we let the delay make the groove to.
Now that the basic arrangement was laid out, they got to work on the finer details, and on top of that list was a memorable intro. One of the many long talks David and Nile had was comparing the two famous versions of the song Twist and Shout, discussing the differences between the Beatles version and the Isley Brothers original. They took particular notice how those teenagers in the 60s went crazy over the vocal stacking effect in the Beatles version. Nile thought, what could be a better opening to Let's Dance than that? The lyrics in Let's Dance follows the reliable pop hit-making script by calling people out to dance. But if you look past the pop shine Rodgers devised, Let's Dance can seem fragile. The singer hopes that the dance he's asking for will cause his lover to finally commit to him, but he fears that even if his plan works, it will only be for a moment.
If you say run, I'll run with you.
One of the shining moments of the track comes from the bluesy guitar solo. Much like he had done by producing Lou Reed and Iggy Pop in the 70s, Bowie brought an unknown musician to the forefront by the name of Stevie Ray Vaughan. It was earlier that year in July where David was attending the Montreux Jazz Festival as a fan, where he'd first encountered the guitarist. Stevie and his band at Double Trouble were unsigned at the time.
He was like second on the bill or something, and this little kid from Austin, Texas, came out and just played some of the most devastating city rhythm and blues I've heard in years. It was great.
Let's Dance would eventually become Bowie's biggest single of his career, peaking at number 1 on the UK singles chart for 3 weeks, soon followed by topping the Billboard Hot 100. The music video only helped its success. It was ahead of its time, with Bowie trying to do more than just dole out a 3.5-minute commercial for the artist. Bowie used the platform to critique racism, namely in Australia. For example, using the Red Shoes lyric to serve as a corrupting symbol of modern capitalism. At the time, Let's Dance was an introduction for Bowie's latest incarnation, the 80s hipster CEO figure, a pop star avatar. But what it really was Bowie's ultimate tribute to his heroes of old, an embracing of the warm excitement he got out of his childhood record collection. In the 70s, he'd rebranded himself as the world's first bisexual rock star. Now his niche brand was being relaunched as an international multimedia product. Just as Nile disguised that original wallflower folky ballad into a shining dance anthem, Bowie had made his new pop star reinvention a disguise of his own nostalgia.